Welcome to Simple Software Tutorials. In this video, I'm going to give you a guided tour of Microsoft Word so you can get more comfortable with where things are and what the different tools are used for. We'll look at the main tabs and some of the features you're most likely to use, while also touching on a few more advanced tools so you know they're there. This is part of my Let's Work Through It series, where we take a little more time to explore software in a relaxed, practical way and talk through not just what things do, but how you might actually use them. Let's work through it. So I'm going to start by opening Microsoft Word, just so we can start from the very beginning. So if you open Microsoft Word, it's likely going to look similar to this. And what we see here are some templates here. Typically, I start with a blank document. If you've opened files recently, they'll show up right here. If you want to look at more templates, so maybe you're trying to build a resume or you want to print a calendar, you can click on more templates and find a whole variety of different things here. You can click on business for business related templates. And these are all free to use. These are part of Microsoft Word. And you can go ahead and scroll through, look at all of these. If one catches your eye, like maybe you want to print some business cards, you can click on it. It'll give you a preview of what it looks like and some information here. And if this is what you want to go with, you can click on Create, and it'll open a document where you can customize this for yourself. If you don't like it, you can click on the X. You can scroll through, you can search for things here. There's just all sorts of different items here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just start with a blank document. And I know I said we're going to stick to some basics, but I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool that probably a lot of people don't know is a thing in Word. But basically, I just want to put some text in here just so we have something to look at, something to work with. So real quick, so I'm going to type the equals sign, type in rand, R-A-N-D, like random. I'm going to do an open parentheses. So what I'm essentially doing is having Microsoft Word generate some random text to fill out this document. So that's where the equal sign, rand for random, random text. Now in the parentheses, I'm going to first put the number of paragraphs. So I'm going to put 15 because I want 15 paragraphs. I'm going to put a comma and then five sentences per paragraph. Then I'm going to close the parentheses and I'm going to hit enter. And now we have some random text in here so we can start looking through Microsoft Word and have some text to play around with. So this first tab here, well, I guess it's technically the second tab, but the first one that we're going to work with is the Home tab. This is probably the tab you're going to use the most because what you can do from here, you can cut, copy, paste. You can change the font appearance, so how the text looks. So if I wanted to bold this first sentence here, so I just click before video, and then I hold down my left mouse button and I drag it there to highlight. And then I can click here and I can click on bold. And see how when I hover over these, that tooltip pops up explaining what each of these things does. So it makes it really easy to understand. And I know there's a lot of things on here. If you're not super familiar with it, it might be a little intimidating. But if you notice down here, we see things that are, it says clipboard or font or paragraph. So it kind of explains what settings are in each section of this. So if I wanted to bold this first one, I've highlighted it by clicking and dragging my mouse over it. I can click on B and that makes it bold. And see when I click out of it, it's bold there. If I want to undo, I can click up here, undo bold, or if you can see Control Z, that's the keyboard shortcut. So if I hold Control and Z, that will undo it. I can also do the same. I can italicize it. That's the I here, so it makes it that slanty font there. If I click it again while it's highlighted, it will undo that as well. Same with underline. I typically don't underline things in documents though, because usually underline means that it's a hyperlink. So, if you see something that's underlined, a lot of people think that they can click on it and it'll take them to a website. And that putting an underline under something doesn't automatically, create a link like that. There's also strike through. So that just puts a line through it. So, there's going to be times where that comes in handy. It's not something I use too often, but it's good to know that it's there. Now, these two, so we have Subscript and Superscript. That can be handy. So say we want to do H2O. Okay, but that's not correct. We got to make that like that. Or we can make it like that. That's Subscript puts it down low, and Superscript puts it up high. There's some other features here, so maybe I don't like how this text looks, the font. So this is the font that it is by default. But if I want to change it, maybe I want to change all of it. I'm going to hold down the control button and A. That selects all. And I can change the font here. So these are the different types of fonts. And notice as I scroll over them, the text changes. So it gives me a preview of what it will look like. And there's a lot of fonts in here. Now see, some of them have the little cloud here with the arrow. That means that I haven't downloaded this font. So I can just click on that and it'll download it for me. That just makes it available for me to use. But just a good rule of thumb is, if you're creating a document that you want people to read, make sure you use a font that's easy to read. So some of these, like I wouldn't want my whole document being in this font. It's pretty hard to read. You'd want a cleaner font like that. So a lot of times just the default font works great, but that's how you change that. Now maybe I want to change the size of the text. That can be done here, here, and here. So this tells me the number. So this means that it's a 12-point font, which is pretty standard. Smaller numbers make smaller font. You don't want to go too small, or again, it's hard to read. Or you can make it bigger. So if you wanted to make it for a title, you can make it bigger. And you can even type in a number there. So if I wanted like 11.5, I can type that in, press enter, and it sets my font to 11.5. Now these right here, you can click on these and it will make it bigger. So you don't have to scroll through or enter a font size here. You can just adjust it by clicking these buttons. And then this one will make it smaller. This one is pretty handy too. And I really encourage you, just open up Word and just play around in it like I'm doing right now. Just kind of familiarize yourself with these different features. It's really hard to mess things up. So just go ahead, dive in, be creative, have fun, learn, and you'll figure a lot of things out just by poking around. So what this setting here does is this can change the case of it. So say I'm just going to hit enter. Say I want this sentence in all caps. Now I could retype it in all caps, but I can click here and I can choose uppercase, and that automatically does it for me. Or I can make it all lowercase. I can make it sentence case, which is what it originally was. I can have it capitalize each word. Now keep in mind when you do that, it's going to capitalize words that probably shouldn't be capitalized, like A and to. But it's a real handy way. If you need most of those capitalized, you could pop in there and, just put a lowercase a in there and fix that. Toggle case, probably don't want to use that too often, but every once in a while it's going to come in handy. Just good to know that it's there. So I'm going to go back and put it at sentence case. You can also clear all formatting. So say I did something funky here. This will remove the formatting there. This you can add some text effects. So if you want to change the color, add a little shadow, there's all sorts of different options. Again, this makes it kind of hard to read. depending on which style you use. But it can be a really fun way to make text stand out, especially if you just need a little bit of text to stand out, uh, like a title. If you wanted to highlight something, so say this is a really important sentence. I'm going to highlight this. I'm using highlight in two different ways. So I'll say highlight to select a line. Maybe that's a more, better way to say it. But this will highlight it like you're using a highlighter. So you can click on here, it'll make it yellow. I'm going to undo that. Or if you click on this little arrow here, you can choose different colors. So maybe you want to highlight things in different colors. So maybe you want some to be turquoise, or you want some to be red. Maybe you want good things to be green and bad things to be red. You've got a whole bunch of options here. Just keep in mind, if I use black, I can't read the text because the text is also black. So now here in the paragraph settings, we have the ability to add bullet points or a numbered list. So say I'm going to change these to individual lines here. So say I want to make these 3 into bullet points. So see how I clicked here, I hold down my left mouse button and I drag up here to select this section. I'm going to try to say select instead of highlight. And then I can click on bullets here and see it turns it into a bullet point list. Now say I want this in numbers instead, I can click here on numbered. So then it automatically makes it into a numbered list. And you do have some options here. I'm going to go back to bullets here. So you have different options here. So if I wanted these round ones, or maybe I want checkpoints, it's a little hard to see right down here, but so if I wanted check marks there, I could do that, or these little arrows. So you've got some different options here. And then same with the numbering. If you wanted to have maybe Roman numerals instead, you can do that, or just small letters, capital letters. You've got all sorts of different options here. And then this controls how it looks when you have different levels. So say I'm going to click in front of this word here, you, and I'm going to hit tab, and that indents it there. So that helps control how those look there. So this is how it currently looks. So it alternates between the dark circle and the hollow circle, and then it turned into a little square there. But if I wanted to switch to numbers or this more decorative, I can click on that and you can see how it's changed. And what I can do here is I can hit tab and go in even further so we can see what each of those look like. There's also the ability to increase or decrease the indent. That's how far it is pushed over here from the margin. The margin is this gap around the edges. Typically it's about 1 inch per side. So say I want this one indented, I can click just right in front of it and I can click increase indent, and that's going to push it over, or I can push it back to the left. And then these right here, these control how the text is aligned. So say I want this in the center, I can click on this one, the center, and that will move it into the center like that. Or maybe I want the text all spread out across so it makes the page look like it's filled. I'm going to use this one, justify. So it spreads the text out a little more so it's not aligned on either side. It's kind of spread out more, if that makes sense. These paragraphs might show it a little more dramatically. Yeah, see how it lines up more on the sides? We have fill color right here for shading. So say I want to shade something. This is really similar to the highlighter. It just gives you some more color options so you can go through and take a look at all these different color options. Now, if you look at the text that it's highlighted back here, you can see that the text, it changes color. So when I switch to a dark fill color, it changes the text to white. And you can also click down here for more colors. So this gives you a whole variety of different colors. Or you can use a custom color. So you can drag this around and choose a color. So if I wanted, like this color, you see this little meter here, it's picking the darkest one, but I can click here and maybe choose, maybe I want that teal color. I can click OK, and now this line is filled with that teal color. I'm going to click up here to undo. And then these are borders. This is more for when you have a table. If you want to display text in a table, that's what these are for. But something in here that I want to point out. So say I want to include a line. I want to put a line right across the page here. I can do that by clicking on this arrow here and then click horizontal line. And then it puts a line across there. So maybe I want to center this and then I want a line there. But you know what? I want to change the color of the line. So see how it looks different now? I'm going to double click on it. And this opens up some settings. So I can choose the height of it. So if I wanted it a little thicker, I can do that. I can change the color of it. So maybe I want it to be that pretty teal color that I picked out. And I can choose if I want it aligned on the left or right, but I'm going to leave it in the center. I'm going to click on OK. You can see now it's a little thicker and it's that pretty teal color that I picked out. Now these are different styles. So they're preset styles and they're more than just appearance. They actually have functionality. So say I want to change this to a title. So I'm going to select this line by clicking and dragging my mouse over it, and I'm going to change it to title. Now you can click on this drop down here and see some different options here. You can create your own style. It's a little complicated, but just know that you can set up your own styles like this, and that'll probably make more sense in a minute. But so I'm going to leave this at title, and then let's say this is an introduction, and then I'm going to type section 1. And what I do here is I'm going to change this to heading. So this is heading 1. And you'll notice over here, it automatically popped out this navigation. That may or may not happen for you, but it'll make sense in a second. So now I'm going to add section 2. And I'm also going to select heading. So what this is doing here is basically creating kind of almost a table of contents where you can navigate through your document. And that's because you use the headings here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do subheading 2. I'm going to click this one right here, heading 2. And see how it's indented there since this is a subsection. So what you can do with this is on the References tab, we'll take a look at this in a minute, you can create a whole table of contents that automatically updates. So it makes it really handy. So you can well, one, automatically have a table of contents, but also if you save this as a PDF, and even if you don't, even if you send it, maybe you're creating like a training manual and you send it to somebody, they can click through the table of contents and automatically jump to those sections. So that's a really handy feature there. There's find. So find is just basically search. You can also type Control and F, and that will open up find. So I'm going to close that because that's keeping it from working. And so for find here, so say I wanted to find, we'll just type in graphics. So what this is going to do, it's going to show me how many times that word shows up in here, and it's going to show me sections where it appears. So then I can click to these and I can view them, or I can skip through using these arrows to navigate throughout. It's really handy. Now there's a similar feature called replace. That's this one right here. So say I created a document and maybe it's about a person and I misspelled their name and I need to change it. Rather than go through and find all of them, even using find, that'll make it a little faster, but I can even automate the whole thing. So I can click on replace and it works very similarly, but I can tell it what to look for, and then I can tell it what to replace it with. So if I wanted to change graphics to images, I can find them and I can replace individual ones by clicking replace. Or if I just trust that this has found exactly what I need it to find, I can click replace all. And there's more options down here. These are little, I guess advanced options. So if you wanted to match the case, so maybe I only wanted it to find this word when the G is capitalized, I can check match case and see it's not capitalized anywhere. So it says that there's no matches. But if I uncheck that, then it will find them. Then there's whole words only. So if maybe, well, graphics probably isn't the best option here, but say I look for the word at. See, it finds at in the word match, but I don't want it to. I don't want it to find it in there. So I would say whole words only. So it's only going to find when I have the word at. And that's not, somehow that's not in here. Wildcards, you can use a wildcard, usually an asterisk. And there's just different options here. So typically we don't do a whole lot with these options here. That's why they're hidden. But just wanted to give you a quick tour of that. There's also select. So if you do Control A, that will select all. But you can also click here and have this function select all. Or say I want to just select, maybe I don't like having these as heading 1. I want to switch them to heading 2. I've selected this area, but I can do select all text with similar formatting. So now it shows that this is heading 1, this is heading 1. So I could change it to heading 2. See how it changes appearance? Or I can even pop it down to heading 3. So that's a pretty handy function there. These, I don't use these very much at all, but they are here. You can play around with them. Dictate is if you want to use voice dictation, but these are the basic things that I use here. So let's save this document, because one of the first things you probably want to do when you're creating a document is save it. That way you don't lose it. So that can be done by clicking the save right here, or you can click File and Save As. Or you can even click up here and it'll automatically try to save it to your OneDrive if you have OneDrive installed. But I like to click on File and Save As. And then this is going to pull up recent places where you can save things. So I've got my OneDrive set up here. I have recent folders here. And typically I like to click on Browse. Now Browse opens up basically a file explorer here, and it's going to pick where it thinks I want to store this. But what I can do, I can expand this a little bit. So I'm going to store it. I mean, you could store it wherever you want. You could store it on your desktop, but I like being organized. So you could store it in your documents, or here in my OneDrive, I have a documents folder in here. So I can give it a name. So I'm just going to call this a training document for Word. A lot of times I like to add the date too. So it's August right now, and I add the year. That way I know what it is and I know when I created it. So that way if I need to find it later, I can easily search for it. But also it's just a good idea to name it something that makes sense. So if I stumble upon this later, I know exactly what this is and I know when I created it. So I'm going to click on save. And you'll see that it now has that name up here, and I get this message that it's going to automatically save. So as I make changes, it's going to automatically save that. So I don't have to worry about clicking on the save button or doing anything. It's going to automatically save it so I don't lose my work. So we're going to pop over to the Insert tab here. So there's a lot on here, and again, you might not use these a lot, but we're going to just kind of go through this real quick. So let's just plan that I will be putting in a table of contents. So I want to push all of this text onto the next page. So the way I do that is click on, actually I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to click on page break. So what that does is that forces the text onto the next page. So that lets you control where your pages are, if that makes sense. So maybe I want to, maybe I want each section on its own page. I can click in front of here, I can click page break, and it moves it there. And so that way it leaves open space so I can do what I want here if I need to add more text, but it ensures that there's a break between these pages. And we talked about tables earlier. So tables can be added right here. So say I want to add a table in this section. I'm going to click on this button right here. Now, what it wants you to do is to kind of plan out how your table is going to look. So say I want 3 columns and 2 rows. You can see it creating a preview down there on my document. And as I move it around, it's going to adjust with this. Now keep in mind that it's pretty easy to change how your table looks. So if you need to add rows or columns, you can do that after. This is just kind of, if you have an idea of what you want to build, this is where you can set that up. There's also quick tables. So these are some pre-formatted ones. So if you wanted like a little calendar or a matrix or other things in here, you can select any of these. And again, feel free to play around. If you're curious about something, just go ahead and click on it and put it in there because you can always click undo and undo it. So if I wanted to put, a 3x2 table, I can do that. And what this will do now is this automatically opens up this new table design tab. So there's 2 table tabs that got added when I put this table in here. And I can push it down a little bit. I'm going to click here at the end of this text and hit enter. So I like to click, see how it changes up here, this little box with the kind of plus sign in it. That lets me select the whole table. I can click on table design. And just like on the other tabs, we have drop downs with options. We have that here too. So say I'm going to scroll that down so you can see it. So if I want a table that looks like that, or we've used teal elsewhere, I can create a table that looks like that. And also something I want to point out is this top left corner. So depending on where you want to have your header content, so say you want across the top, you want to have basically titles that explain what's in each section. You can check header row. So that would make this first row basically your header. So see how it's dark up there? So it makes the top look a little different. And then first column. So By having both of these checked, that assumes that we're going to have stuff across the top and stuff down the side as like header information. So maybe we have like company names across the top and then like product features down the side. But you can change that up here. So if we just want, you know, the row, maybe we don't need two of these. Maybe we don't need headers for both. We can uncheck that box there. And then a total row, if we check that, it's going to add, I hit, so I'm going to click here and I'm going to click on the tab button. So that adds another row. So because that's skipping, when you hit tab, it skips through. The total row kind of formats the last row for totals. So if you're adding up information, that will be totaled down there. So I'm going to just go back to this, and you can just hover over and look at how the different styles look just to get an idea, and just find one that you like. So maybe I like this one. And then you can just type your information in here. So heading 1, and so on. And just you can hit tab to skip through. Now, if I want to add a column, maybe I want to add a column over here. See how my cursor changes here to that arrow? I'm going to click and see it highlights this. Now I'm going to click on table layout up here, and then I can insert a column to the right. You can insert to the left, you can add rows below and above. All of these allow you to make changes. So I'm just going to click insert column right, and see now it's added a column in there. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do here, but I just wanted to help get you familiar with tables. So we're going to go back to the Insert tab. So something else you can add are pictures. So maybe down here, I want to add a picture. So I'm going to click on Pictures, and I can upload one from my computer. I can get stock images or online pictures. So I'm just going to click on Stock Images. And this opens up a library of images that I can use. So I can search for something, I can look at icons here. There's cutout people if I want to insert a person in here. Different stickers, illustrations, cartoon people. And each of these are different little filters or search aids where they can help you find things. And then we have different categories here of things that we might look for. Maybe I want something blue, so I'm just searching for blue. And so you can just scroll through, see what appeals to you, click on it, click on Insert, and there's my image. My image is now in here. So now this opens up the Picture Format tab. So this is where I can make some different changes here. So just like we have styles on the other tabs, we have picture styles. So you can click on this and again, have fun. Just kind of hover over each of these and see how the image changes. So some of these put frames on it. This one adds a shadow. That one puts it on the next page. Let's see, it rounds the corners and makes it look reflected. This one adds a feathering to the edges so it doesn't have such abrupt edges, and just so on. It can change how these different images look. And if it's disappearing, that's because it's going on to the next page. See, there's all sorts of different options here, just depending on what you want to do. And then you can add a border. You can change, so a border puts a color around the outside. So if I wanted to add that turquoise, it's a little hard to see here. You can see it a little better with the red. I can do that. I can add different effects like adding a shadow to it. See how underneath it, it's got kind of a dark shadow there. So you can do that. You can add reflections. That's going to pop it to the next page. I could add a glow to it. So just have fun and just play around with these different options. And then there's some options here that control how it works with text. So I'm just going to delete this table here so we have more room. But so right now, the text goes around it, but this will control like how it wraps with the text. So does the text go on the square around it? Is it tight? Does the text just go through it? Is the text on top and bottom? Is it behind the text? So if I slide it up, you can see that the text is in front of it, or I can put it in front of the text, which doesn't make a lot of sense because it hides it, but you get the point there. And then I can also resize it. So I can click on the corner, see how my cursor changes to that slanted arrow. I can make it smaller. I can make it bigger. I can also do that here. So clicking on these arrows, you can adjust the size. And if I want to crop it, maybe I don't want the side there, I can click on this, on crop, and see how my cursor changes here to that, I don't know, looks like a sideways T. I can slide it in and that crops the image. So it removes part of it. Let's take a look at the design tab. So this, I don't use this very much. I probably should, but this is how you can apply different formatting to your document. So you see when I hover over, and maybe I'll scroll up, see how it changes the title, but it changes all these different, it changes the appearance. So you know how we applied the styles here, it changes those styles. So things that I set as a heading, it's going to change that. You can change colors. So typically we use the default, but you can change the color scheme here. That's going to change the basic colors. If you're not using colors in here, this doesn't really apply. But just wanted to give you a quick look at some of these options here. And again, play around with it, have fun, experiment, just see what happens. Now, layout, there's a few things on here that are good to know. So I mentioned margins earlier. Margins by default, it's typically an inch around. So if you want narrower margins, so maybe you want it only half an inch, you can click here on margins, and it has some different presets. So as you can see, normal is just 1 inch on each side. You can change it to narrow, and that changes it to half an inch. And see, you can fit a lot more content on the page. See, that got narrower, so there's just half an inch. But yeah, you can change that. If you want to choose your own custom margins, you can click here and you can enter that information. This is in, at least in the US, this is in inches. So if I wanted it, 3/4 of an inch, I can type 0.75, but I'm just going to leave that for now. Orientation is whether it is in portrait mode or landscape. So portrait is this tall upright where it's 8.5 by 11. Landscape, it flips it, so it's 8.5 this high and then 11 across. So see, it looks more. I'm gonna down here on the bottom right, there's a zoom, so I can zoom out just to kind of show you. So see how it's wider now than it is tall. I can change it back to portrait. And so now it's taller than it is wide. Size, you're probably not going to mess around with this too much unless you're changing the paper size. But by default, we we start with letter 8.5 by 11. And then something pretty cool is columns here. So say I want to put some of this text into 2 columns, maybe these 2 paragraphs here. So I've clicked, I've selected them. I'm going to click on columns. So I can change it to 2 columns, and see it looks kind of like a newspaper. So we have, a paragraph over here, a paragraph over here. I can undo that. Maybe I want 3 columns. So see, it splits the text into 3 columns. Or it makes it a little smaller on the left, a little bigger on the right. So you've got different options for that. I don't really use these at all. So I'm going to go back up to the top. So earlier I mentioned adding a table of contents. So that is on this references page here. And so that's pretty easy to do. It's right here. So remember I added these headings here. And then I added this as a title. So what I can do is I can click on table of contents, and it's going to show me a couple different options here. So you can kind of choose how you want it to look, but I'm just going to pick this first one, and see it automatically creates this table of contents. And it's based off of these designs. So anything that I select, I use the style of heading 1, it's going to show up here. And then heading 2, it's going to be a little indented. And the cool thing is I can hold Control and see how it changes to the little hand when I press Control. Now I can click and it automatically takes me there. So that's pretty handy, especially when you have a really long document or a report. Now, if you make any changes, like you add sections or you change the page, you can just click on Update Table. So see, see it turns gray. I click in here, click on Update Table, and I click on Update Entire Table. If you do just page numbers, I don't know, I think it just changes the page numbers. But if you are adding maybe new sections, you're using, adding new headings, I just always choose Update Entire Table. I don't do much with the rest of what's in here, but there are some other options, like if you're in school, if you're writing a paper, it can help you manage your citations and your sources, create a bibliography, things like that. So be sure to take a look around and just kind of familiarize yourself if that is relevant to you. Mailings help you print out envelopes and labels. Again, I don't use this too often, but I do have a tutorial about how to create mailing labels in Word using data from an Excel sheet. That's one of my most popular videos, especially around the holidays when people are printing out mailing labels. So just put that in your brain that that is something that you can do in here. So if you need to do a mailing, maybe at work, you can import a list of addresses and into Word and print out mailing labels. So that's pretty handy. That's about the only thing I do on the mailings tab. On the review tab, this is all about reviewing your document. So some of this, like over here, tracking and markup, that's if you are maybe sending this document back and forth to other people and y'all are making changes to it. This keeps track of those changes and allows people to accept or reject the changes, compare versions. It's been a really long time since I've used these, like probably 20 years. So I don't use these very often at all, but just so you know, they're here. But what you might actually use, what you should use, is the spelling and grammar. So this is, spell check, but also spelling and grammar. So just make sure that your all your text, everything you have in here makes sense. You can click on this, and this opens up. It gives you an editor score that it's calculated on the number and type of suggestions to be reviewed and the document length. It'll go through and mark anything questionable. So I guess it doesn't like this, but what you can do, see how it has the underline here, the blue underline? You can click on it. It, well, it thinks it should be embedded. So you can take its advice, or you can, read through this and say, you know what, no, it is embed. You can do that. And then you can right click. So click the right mouse on it. And this gives you a little more information. So you can ignore it. So if I disagree with this grammar suggestion, I can click on ignore once, or don't check for this issue. We've got some different options here. And then something else you might be interested in is the word count. So I'm going to click on this. And what this does is this tells you how many pages there are in your document, how many words, how many characters. So characters are really anything that is on the page. So letters, numbers, commas, periods, punctuation, all of that. That would all be characters. So characters with no spaces, and then characters with spaces. So sometimes that does matter. Like if you're, writing something for LinkedIn, or any other site where there is a limited number of characters you can use, this will let you know, so you're not exceeding that. And this gives you the number of paragraphs and the total number of lines. View just gives different views of the document. So by default, we look at print layout. You can look at read mode, which changes it a little bit. And I just hit escape to get out of that. So the escape button top left, or you can view web view. I don't really like web view. There's also outline. So outline is going to, again, follow those headings that you put in there. I'm going to click close outline view, and then draft. Again, I like print layout. You can also choose vertical or side to side. So if you want your pages side by side, that's an option. Or just if you want to just read down, you can do that. You can also choose to view the ruler. So you can see it added a ruler across the top here and down the bottom, and grid lines. That makes it a little bit busy, but it could be handy in some situations. Navigation pane, that's what popped up when I added those headings. We can make that go away. And then these, I don't really use these much. I want to go back to insert, because I kind of dropped off there. But you can insert things aside from pictures. So you can insert shapes. So if I wanted to add maybe a rectangle, I can do that. See, I can just click and hold my left mouse button, and I can create the shape here. And if I right click on it, I can add text to it. I can select that, and I can change that text if I wanted it bigger. And see, again, it added this shape format here. So I can click on the shape. I can change the colors here using one of these shape styles. I can drop down and see there's all sorts of different options. Or I can choose to change the shape, fill, and outline from here. If I wanted it orange with maybe that teal outline, I can choose that there. And there's some WordArt styles too. So since I added text in there, I can change how the text looks. I can also add a chart. So go to the end here. Actually, I'm going to start with SmartArt. So SmartArt is different things like this. So maybe I want to put a process in here to show, different things happening. I can add a hierarchy. So like for an org chart, different relationship charts here. But typically I use the processes, and there's some different options. You can, get a preview of what they are up here. You can scroll down and take a look at all the different options here, find what works best for you. Click on one of them. You get a preview over here. And if I want to insert it, I can click on OK. And from here, I can either manage the text here. So if I want to do just like text 1, and then can do it like that, or I can click, if I want to add, I can click on this plus sign here. I can drag this over here to spread this out. I can also just type right in here. So either way works. And if I click on this, you'll see that we have Smart Design up here and Format. So Smart Design gives me some options here. If I end up not liking this layout, I can choose a different one here. And see, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, see how it changes. So it gives me a preview. I haven't clicked on it yet. But see that looks pretty cool. So I can change it there. If I don't like the color, I can click on change colors. And this gives me different options. These are all just presets there. There's also different styles here. So some are kind of three-dimensional. So if that's what you want to do, that's an option right there. That's pretty cool. And then also links. So if I wanted to add a link to a website, I can select this, maybe this whole sentence right here. And then I can click on link. And then I can enter the website address right down here. Or if I wanted to link to a place in this document, I can select that from here and see this is from using those headings from the home tab, so that I could link to one of those. Or I can even link to an email address. So I can enter the email address here. I can enter an email subject that will automatically pop up. So there's a lot of neat options there. We can also add headers and footers. So headers show up here. Footers show up at the bottom. So typically what you'll see up there, headers, a lot of times you see like a file name, or if you're reading a book, maybe the chapter name. And then typically at the bottom, there's page numbers or other text. And so if you want to see some options, you can click on header, and there's different options here. So if you wanted to enter specific text up there, that you can add one. There's three columns of text. There's some formatting there. So if you wanted to add some, cool designs, you can do that. So I'm just going to click on this. So see, it puts it there. So this is actually essentially behind your text on your main page. And I did set narrow margins, but if I wanted to change the margin a little bit, I can decrease that there or increase it. And then for the footer, I can click on footer, and same thing, I can choose what I want down there. So if I want the page number, or if I want to include the document title and subtitle, I can click there. This shows up on odd pages, this shows up on even pages. Or maybe I just want a pretty design. So I'm just going to click on that and see it puts it down there. I can decrease the footer from the bottom space so the text lays out better. And you can just hit escape or close header and footer. And when you print it out, that will appear on the document, just like how we have it here. And there's some other things in here, like if you want to add a text box is very similar to adding the shape here. WordArt just lets you add interesting looking words, or so I already have this text here, I can change how that looks. I did apply a style to it, so that might not work, but that's a pretty solid overview of a lot of the things you can do in Word. So hopefully this helps you get a better understanding of it, and just feel free to just jump in there, start playing around, exploring, click on different buttons, highlight or select your text, and just change things. Just get a real solid feel for it. It's really hard to break anything, and you can always undo whatever you've done by clicking the undo button or Control Z.
I hope this was helpful. Subscribe for more tutorials and visit simplesoftwaretutorials.com for step-by-step guides and free resources. Thanks for watching.